Hey everyone, welcome to Your Voice, Our Morrisville. And today I am joined by three council members, Anna Langer, Shawn Ratti, and Peggy Walsh. And as you know, we've been recapping the previous month's Borough Council meeting, just to let you know if you didn't have an opportunity to go or to watch it as it was happening. So we're going to return to our regular podcast, sort of debriefing of what happened. So last month we changed it up a little bit. We actually had a video showing some of the walking paths of Morrisville and some of the relatively easy and inexpensive ways that we could really improve the walkability of Morrisville, the park, sort of connect the park to the library. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that episode, just go back and do so. It's not very long, and it might give you some ideas and maybe show you some features of the park that you didn't know were there. But today we're going to talk about the council meeting that happened in July. And as usual, we like to start with some positive things. We don't want to be negative all the time. You want to be positive. So Shawn, I'm going to throw it to you to kick us off. Tell me something positive that happened at the meeting.
Oh, thank you. We were really happy to actually hear that we have had about three interviews so far for the library director. And it was also good to hear from the interim borough manager saying that he has hoped that we would soon have somebody filling in that position within the next, at the time, 45 days. So that way we won't be losing our state funding. Now, to a reminder to the public that our deadline for coming up with a plan and hiring is going to be September 1st.
And we also agreed to remove the Master of Library of Science requirement from the posting on the borough websites because it's not yet a requirement.
But when I asked if there would be more interviews or if the position had been posted on actual library websites, the interim manager said he did not expect more interviews, and there are no plans to post more widely, which is really a shame. The posting itself is an embarrassment. I've never seen a job posting with so little information about the job or the requirements. And I know that we could have had many more applicants had we amplified our posting and advertised at schools and on library websites. But we have to look at the bright side. At least we have some hope that we will have a director in place by the county deadline of September 1st, and we won't lose our state funding.
Yes, because if we lose the state funding, we will not have the money to properly replenish our collection, not without having to take more from the library budget, which could ultimately end up leading us to require more support for the library. Scott Robinson commented on the expense of the books and even called it price gouging. And that's actually very true. I mean, these books and other materials are getting expensive at times, but that's a reality that all libraries in Pennsylvania are currently facing. And the best way we can help to do this to help replenish our collection and combat our own rising costs is with this funding, which was the whole purpose of it after all.
Okay, so we're going to just send out positive vibes, and hopefully we'll have somebody in place by September 1st. And it's amazing to think that that position has been open for almost 2 years, and that our small library, part-time staff and volunteers have been able to do so much without someone really leading them and keeping the library going. When we went to film at the library for the last podcast, Alexa was there and there was a whole bunch of kids there. There had to be at least 20 kids who came in for reading time. So that was really heartening to see. So Peggy, what else have we got going on?
Well, we were really thrilled that the solicitor agreed to our request to vote on a curative amendment to our zoning ordinances so that we could have 180 days to write a zoning ordinance that could protect our residents from the most negative impacts of data centers.
And I'm sure that everyone has been reading or hearing about the anger at the Falls residents by the Falls residents for feeling blindsided by the Amazon mega data center in their district. Unfortunately, the council was not proactive, and it will be difficult, if not impossible, for Falls to do anything at this point. This kind of negative response to data center is not confined to our area, but is happening in counties and townships as much as other states in the United States.
Yes, and I mean, while yes, it is illegal to forbid data centers, but a good ordinance in place can provide a location, noise, utility, and water use requirements to provide some protection for residents. Scott had questioned whether Morrisville even need to worry about this because we don't really have areas big enough to normally warrant what would be expected for a typical data center. But thankfully, our attorney did point out that when it comes to these areas, some of these data centers coming in might require only so much as an acre of space. So this is not completely outside the realm of possibility. And it's better to be proactive on the matter because we won't be able to predict every plan a company will devise to build their own business. And trust me, they will always be developing new plans in order to work around those restrictions and increase their business wherever they can. So staying a step ahead of this doesn't leave us woefully unprepared for the future, something that I often hear several council members frequently complain about regarding previous council members over the years.
Yeah, and part of our request included forming a council committee rather than having our solicitor write one in isolation. And we also urge the inclusion of the public at working sessions so that we're transparent with our residents and our residents don't feel as if the process is conducted behind closed doors.
I attended the data center meeting held at the Pennsbury High School. The auditorium was packed with many angry and frustrated residents. Many felt betrayed by the representatives. Residents demanded to know how the data center will impact their water and electric bills, pollution, and home values. We definitely do not want to have to face these issues here in Morrisville. That is why we really need to get moving on the ordinance. And we also need our residents to get involved. Come and speak at the meetings and hold the council accountable.
So true, but unfortunately, there didn't seem at the time a whole lot of enthusiasm from some of the others when it comes to forming a committee or having public hearings. But I'm hopeful that we can bring about some of those changes of opinions and bring some more interest to it, especially with the help of our residents.
Okay, so it sounds as if the best thing that our residents can do is get in touch with their borough council members, the ones who are representing them, or come to the next council meeting and demand that they be included in this process. Now, I know that in the past, we've tried to write ordinances to prevent more smoke shops from coming into town. So this is something that they should be familiar with, that you can't ban a specific business, but you can ban the things around it. Now, I know that the residents of Falls feel like this was kind of done behind their back. It really wasn't. I think at the time it was brought up, it was before there was a lot of attention on data centers. But Falls, I mean, they're not a good neighbor to Morrisville. We have to deal with this data center that they're building, along with Britain and that whole eyesore on Bridge Street. So, I mean, I think it's a really good idea for the council to come together and make sure that we don't have to deal with any of the consequences of them trying to bring in data centers, because they can do it on very small parcels of land. Where I work, we talk about instead of data centers going wide, that they can actually go up. So you don't need a whole lot of land if you're building something that's a tower. So I'm glad to hear that, but everyone should get involved because if you're upset about the one in Falls, just think what it's going to be like if one comes here. So, so anything else of interest?
Well, after months of asking, we finally got a bit of financial information from the interim part time borough manager. At the end of our meeting, he distributed a bank statement for the general fund checking account for the month of June, showing a balance of over $10 million. That's good news on its face, and it confirms that the EIT was a smart move. But a snapshot in time doesn't give you the full picture of the borough's financial health.
Right, because correlating that number with our monthly financial takes more than just doing it at a glance. That extra money, whenever it's dipped into, isn't accounted for on monthly reports. And in the 2026 budget itself doesn't identify any extra money from the previous years under a unassigned or appropriated fund balance at all. It's great that we had over $1 million of surplus to pay for the second road program out of pocket rather than doing another loan like they did with the first program. but that financial information is not properly reflected or readily available for us or even for the public to know our status. And it concerns me as to why something that is so positive isn't being shown.
We really need a clear and shared understanding of how much extra money we truly have. And we need a real conversation about how to account for it, when to spend it, and where to bank it or park it. That's not a decision for the part-time interim borough manager to make alone, and it's or with the council president. And it's not something that should be hashed out in 15 minutes at our council meetings.
Money that the borough holds beyond what's been budgeted needs to be identified and accounted for clearly on the record. Left unaddressed, it can become a slush fund or breed a false sense of security. And we've got a cushion to fall back on. Mentally, that erodes the discipline, and we should be bringing to every dollar. I have asked repeatedly for account information, debts, and investment to give us a clearer understanding of our finances, but have not received anything except for the handout that details 1 month's general fund information. We had to resort to an open record process, also known as their right to know, to request full information on our financial accounts and debts. Not only did the borough respond that it needed an extra 30 days to gather basic information that should be easily available, it has missed the legal deadline. As of this taping, as of tonight, we are still waiting for the information.
And we were given 1 month's checking account information. So do we have all of our money in one account? We have no idea. In my own budget at home, we have a checking account and a savings account so that we do not spend all of our money without planning ahead for future demands. And that we may well have that, but we have no idea of knowing because we can't get the information.
Yeah, and boroughs and township finances are certainly way more complex than just a single account. Responsible leaders need to stay informed in these areas on all financial decisions and accountability so it doesn't just rely on one or two people and everybody else is expected just to agree. How can we make informed decisions about hiring for our understaffed positions and areas or the cost of various projects when we don't really know what our financial status is beyond the occasional, we're in good shape?
I do have to say, as a Morrisville resident, it is concerning to me that no one seems to have oversight over what accounts are where, how much money is in it, how our money is being spent, and what our debt really is. So that's a lot to process. So, Anna, please keep us posted on when you're able to get the records, if you're able to get the records.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a lot, but I also want to talk about the Stockham building. So we've been hearing that it's going to be demolished. It's still sitting there with a fence around it. I think it's been that way for over a year now. I don't know what, if any, progress is being made. And so right across the street from it is yet another abandoned building, which was formerly the Morrisville Bank building. It was a Wells Fargo last, and Wells Fargo, I believe, moved out. Maybe sometime around the COVID lockdown 20 or 21. So can you give me some insight or some update on what's happening with the Stockham building?
Well, we were told by our engineer that the demolition should begin in the fall. The borough is still waiting for the settlement with the owner of the roof who had used it for the cell towers. Once that is done, a done deal or resolved, we can move ahead.
Okay, well, as I mentioned, I am concerned about the building across the street. It's a beautiful stone bank building. It could be a lot of different things. I was actually thinking, without much work, it could be a boutique hotel. I mean, there's a vault there in the basement. I remember that from when I was a kid. There's actually several floors above it. So can you tell me what is happening with that building, if you have any insight?
Well, my understanding is that right now, the owner of that building refuses to sell to the borough until he sees what's going to happen with the Stockham building. And then he will decide whether he wants to sell or refurbish the building for something else. So I really think until that Stockton building comes down, our hands are tied with all the projects we'd like to move forward with on Bridge Street.
Okay, and I know there was a little bit of a kerfuffle at the last council meeting. Can somebody fill me in on that one?
Yes, the council president asked Debbie Colgan, or she told Debbie Colgan that residents had asked about the earpiece that Debbie wears during council members' meetings. And Debbie explained that it's to amplify her hearing. The person who made the complaint laughed at Debbie's explanation, and a few people in the audience actually guffawed. I mean, it was really loud. But the council president didn't use her gavel. Even council members appeared to find the inquiry funny, as if those with disabilities deserve to be mocked. Couldn't the council president have spoken to Debbie privately if it was truly a sincere question? Because she had approached Debbie about this earpiece before, and Debbie had explained it to her. Now, the council president was angry with me because I pointed out a non-functioning link for our residents to apply for committee positions instead of asking about it privately. So she really should follow her own advice.
Yes, and this is a disturbing inconsistency on the part of the council president. Firstly, like Peggy had said, the earpiece was asked about and addressed by a resident previous months, very early in the year, a few months ago, and along with an implication that it might somehow be unsuitable for executive session for some nefarious purpose, which is ridiculous. So it's already been asked and it was addressed once before, not that long ago. Then you also have a group of residents who will make faces, they'll laugh, sigh, and they'll even like jeer and stuff like that during meetings. And the council president won't even waste time asking for appropriate behavior to quiet down or not to shout out. Yet, she's very quick to gavel down other residents in the audience or anyone that she might consider, and I said this in quotes, like our friends, for their individual conversations because they decide that those are too distracting or rude. And unfortunately, there are people up at the dais who are also laughing with residents instead of calling for order. So I guess we'll see. Maybe there'll now be a sudden change since this is being called out for and has been addressed by several residents I know in town already, who have been able to see and overhear this stuff. And we might see an alteration in order to kind of feign ignorance publicly over the issue.
We've been trying to get for 3 months now to get the resolution committing to our Constitution on the agenda, but have been ignored. When we brought it up at the last meeting, the borough interim manager asked if we could have something without political activism. It's a really sorry state of affairs when reaffirming our commitment to the Constitution is considered political activism.
Well, that's all very interesting that the borough president has her peanut gallery there, sort of laughing and jeering, but anybody else who makes a face gets gavelled down. It's a little immature, I guess, and that we can't have a resolution to say that that we support the Constitution is even more concerning. But we're kind of out of time. We're winding down. I would just like to talk about, like to end on a positive note. So Anna, can you give me like a positive that we can end with?
We voted to designate September as the Turn the Town Teal Month. Every year, one of our residents, Nancy Sherlock, adorns borough trees with teal color ribbons to raise the awareness of ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is the 5th most common cause of death of women. 20,000 women are diagnosed each year. 200,000 women are living with ovarian cancer. And unfortunately, 13,000 women will die each year from this disease. Some symptoms of ovarian cancer include abdominal bloating, discomfort in the pelvic area, and or possibly weight loss. So if you have any family history or experience any unusual symptoms or things that you haven't experienced before, please do not hesitate and schedule a doctor's appointment.
We've also had some great luck and been doing awesome with getting donations for the mural in Williamson Park. So we hope to see more people coming out and supporting such a great project.
And then we also approved the cultural event, which will be held October 3rd in Williamson Park. We hope everyone will attend. It's the first event of this kind that we've had in our borough, and we're sure it'll be a real success.
And I want to give out a shout out to our police for the National Night Out. It was bigger than ever, and our police chief, another officer, and the mayor were really good sports to be dunked in the water tank over and over again. Thanks to all the vendors who distributed toys, gave out school supplies, library materials, and much more. Thanks to the companies who supplied the free pizza. Thank you, Morrisville, for coming out and supporting our men and women in blue and making it a great night. If you haven't had the opportunity to attend the event, you can go on the Morrisville Democratic Committee Facebook page and see pictures as well as watch our chief being dunked. It was a little hot, but a good time just the same.
Well, that sounds like it was an awesome time and good weather to go into a dunk tank. For anyone who's interested in donating to the Morrisville Mural Project, there's going to be a QR code up on the screen. You just put your phone up with the camera and it will take you right to the GoFundMe page you can donate to. You can also send checks. We'll provide that information as well. So let's get this funded so we can get those murals up in our park honoring our hometown heroes. So until the next time we get together, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Your Voice, Our Morrisville.